If you see lotus heads anywhere that have a white sheen, they might not be safe for your hamster, and here's why. This lotus head has a white sheen on it, which you can see here. But I'll also put up a picture here of a before and after so that you can see the white sheen more clearly, because the lighting up here isn't great. The white sheen that you see on this lotus isn't bad in itself, but the story that it tells can be. You know, when you buy blueberries or grapes, sometimes they get like a white sheen on the outside. It's called a bloom. There is a more scientific name for it, but I won't bore you with that. This is the exact same sort of thing. So it's not harmful, but the bloom on this lotus tells me that this lotus isn't clean and hasn't been processed, and here's why that's a problem. When I buy lotuses, they almost all have bloom on them, some more than others. But once I've finished processing a lotus and before I send it out, it looks like this. So you can see that it's clean, there is no bloom at all, and there's maybe just a few little parts of the lotus that have degraded slightly, but that's kind of a normal variance that you'd find. It is a natural product, so some do have like small hiccups in the outer casing. And side by side you can see that one has got this bloom on it and the other one is a nice rich dark colour. So what does the bloom tell you, and why does that mean it's maybe not as hamster safe as you'd like it to be? Lotus heads contain tannins, and that's not unusual. Lots of stuff does, wine, dark chocolate and grapes, but tannins are bad for hamsters because they stop the absorption of nutrients in a hamster's body. Now, for us eating chocolate and drinking tea and all kinds of stuff that has tannins in it, it's not as big an issue because it's negligible, but for a hamster it can be quite serious. Processing the lotuses first in the way that I do means that the tannins in this are reduced by up to 80%, which is significant. The reduction in tannins is significant because these aren't meant to be eaten, but they can be chewed, and when chewed, parts of them can be ingested. If a hamster chews part of this lotus that has been processed and ingests a little bit, a hamster will be absolutely fine. If your hamster chews this lotus and ingests part of it, it can cause stomach upsets and issues if your hamster continues to chew on and ingest parts of the same lotus. The tannins in here are significant. The tannins in here have been reduced by over 80%. So, what is it I do to these lotuses to make them safe, and what can you do if you buy lotuses that have a bloom on and you want to make them safe? So the first step is to visually inspect them and make sure that they're free of debris, particles, anything like that. This is another issue with unprocessed lotuses, is that they might have other contaminants on them. You don't really know where they were before they came to you. Once I've inspected and removed anything, including the seed pods, I then boil them in hot water. So I put on a big saucepan, put all the lotuses in, pour boiling water on, boil them for 20 minutes. During the time that they're boiling, I turn them frequently to make sure that every single part of the lotus has touched the water. Once that boiling process is finished, I empty the water out and then I completely do it all over again. In the first boil, you're probably reducing tannins by about 50%. In the second boil, you're reducing them significantly further. Changing the water halfway through and doing a second boil means that the tannins aren't just kind of sat in the water boiling around the lotuses. They're being removed, and then more tannins are able to be drawn out in the second boil. Once they've boiled, I personally like to lie them out and let them dry for about a day, because some lotuses soak up water and some don't. If they soak up water, you have to find a way to squeeze it out without damaging the lotus, which can be quite hard. The best way I found to do that is to squeeze the lotus like from the back. Like when they are boiled, they kind of go like sponges. So if you squeeze the lotus from the back, it puts less stress on the holes here, which you want to try and keep intact, and it allows you to just squeeze the water out. So it's important that you remove as much water as you can. Once you've left them to dry, they need to be put in the oven on the lowest possible temperature and basically dehydrated. I have ruined quite a few lotuses trying to figure out what the best temperature is to dehydrate them. It takes a good couple of hours. I usually kind of put them on about 6 in the morning, and they're usually done about lunchtime. And that's how you end up with a much cleaner and significantly reduced tannin lotus head. This one is far safer for a hamster. If they were to ingest part of this, even just small flakes of it, or any kind of part of it really, your hamster would be absolutely fine. Whereas if a hamster was to eat and ingest parts of this, the chances are they could be quite ill, and if they continue to eat this, it will affect nutrient absorption in the future. So what can you do? If you're buying lotuses from anywhere, double check what they look like. If they have the white sheen, they have not been processed and they may not be as safe for your hamster. So use that information to buy the best, most safest items for your hamster. If in any doubt at all, ask the seller how they've processed the lotus heads, and that will tell you a lot. And if you buy a lotus that has a white sheen on it, then boiling it a couple of times and drying it out will make it safe for your hamster. No, this is not common knowledge. It is really hard to find lotus heads that aren't chemically treated. I know that before I found them for the shop, I probably emailed, I don't know, in the region of like 20 odd people who sold lotus heads, and all except one of them said that they couldn't guarantee that the lotus heads were free of chemicals, even those that were sold for reptiles and spiders. So I know it's very, very hard to find good lotuses, and once you have found good lotuses, it's important to make sure that they're safe, which is why I take all the extra steps, so that, you know, it kind of takes the guesswork out of anything you have to do. So yeah, I know lotuses aren't that common, so this might not be common knowledge, so please do share it with anyone who you think is thinking of buying a lotus head, or, you know, if you're wanting to buy some in the future, please do share this video so that people are aware of the risks and can make informed decisions. Thank you.